with that, we're gonna roll straight into the panel discussion now to get it all going. So we've got three guests to come up here today. So I'd like to introduce our panelists: Craig Burrell, Global Director, Vessel Technology, out of the Springfield area; Nate Bowman, the world scientist; and Jason Sherman, VP Sales and Marketing North America for K-TIG. So hand over to the team to go through their discussion, and Jason, we'll take it over for you.
So thanks everybody again for coming. The idea for this conversation is really just talking about a lot of the things that we're hearing out in the space, out in the industry right now. There have been a lot of opportunities for growth over the last couple of years, but that brought a lot of challenges. COVID sure as hell didn't help. So we have two guys that are joining us tonight who have some very different and similar experience. You know, Craig, you've been doing this, and this is not intended to be a sales pitch for K-TIG at all. This is more just, how are folks addressing some of the challenges that you're facing every day in the market? So, Craig, why don't you share a little bit about your background for these folks?
I've been in vessel building about 42 years in manufacturing. So I've started from the ground, from the high school on up, and then all the way up to where we've owned a company. And we've got a global company right now that we've got companies in Ireland, China, and then we've got getting ready to have 3 in the United States. So we run about 250 people out of Springfield, about 500, 550 global right now. And we're doing vessels, systems, basically integrated to the biofarm. We're 100% biofarm.
Cool, thank you. On the other hand, we have Nate Bowman, the weld scientist. Some of you may have seen his videos. He's definitely a social media influencer for sure, but definitely a game changer.
Hate the influence.
I know, I said that purposely, so it makes his skin crawl, and it's like...
I'm like a market strategist.
Share a little bit more about what you got going on, because you're helping companies solve welding problems today and deal with the younger generation, right?
Yeah, that's really the kind of the core of what I do. I've been working in the welding industry for about 18 years. I started welding when I was in high school, before I had graduated high school. Did some time in the Air Force doing metal fabrication, moved into working in weld shops, built everything from structural steel stuff to stainless steel piping. Then I got into studying for my certified welding supervisor, certified welding educator, certified welding inspector stuff, and really kind of started to see that you could make predictions with welding based on settings and the way that the welds are being applied and the technology that you use. So, and in that process, photography's kind of been a hobby of mine. Social media and photography kind of go hand in hand. So I started taking photos and turned the camera around and started talking to the camera and talking about some of the problems and things that I'm seeing in the industry, and just really sharing what I'm putting out there. And it's been pretty receptive. So it's kind of what I do, is just trying to share knowledge, and I can't be everywhere welding everything at the same time, and we need to influence as many people as we can to not be so afraid of new technology, and just trying to make the welding industry like a little bit more welcoming place. I think everybody in here would probably agree we need more welders.
Raise your hand if you think so. So that is actually a great segue into the first topic of discussion. I don't think there's anybody in this room that says they have too many welders and they need to lay some off. So, Craig, what are you guys dealing with right now? You got supply chain issues, and then you also have personnel issues. What are some of the things you've been doing to solve those and address those?
Well, the supply chain for us is not really as bad because we have enough vendors locally where we're located out of, so the plate, the sheet. We do run into some issues with valves, fittings, stuff like that. The biggest thing is like our equipment. We've been trying to buy a lot of bigger equipment coming in, and it's over a year out to get stuff. So we've got big shears, rows, brakes, and additional equipment coming in that we could use now, and we're a year out. So that's some of the things we see that I wasn't expecting. And as far as the people, we're 100 employees short now, so we have no choice but to look at some way continuous improvement, CI stuff is the only way we're going to get this done.
Are you, from the employee standpoint, that's pretty much your go-to these days is how I can automate things, or?
What we're currently doing, we've partnered with all the host high schools around locally, and then 100 miles of all of our trade schools. So we've got a team of our HR department is running all over the state, Southwest Missouri down there, trying to find high school kids, students. We've got it on the radio, the news. We have an annual open house every month. So we're on the news all the time, but we still can't get to people. There's so many jobs down there in all different industries. It's just full, and we cannot have enough people to fill the jobs that's what we're dealing with.
Nate, you're in schools a lot, right? You're
Yeah.
in touch with that younger generation.
Yeah.
What's the attitude to these younger folks that are trying to get in the industry? What are you seeing as ways to address this problem?
Well, I mean, I think there's like a couple misconceptions about like younger generation of welders and stuff. I mean, a lot of people would see millennials or anybody attached to a phone and be like, oh, that person's, they don't want to work hard or anything like that. I think a lot of it comes down to just a missed connection or a missed opportunity. I feel like a lot of younger, like students and things like that, they would be really interested in, seeing something like the K-TIG or an advanced piece of welding technology. But at their high school or community college or place like that, they just don't necessarily have the opportunity. They're relying on their instructor and whatever knowledge that they may have. Depending on where they came from the industry, they could have 20 years of experience, but even if they started at the school in 2000, they've been out of the industry for 22 years.
Yep.
There's a lot of advancements that's happened in the last 22 years.
How many people here at your company do an open house and let high schoolers in, or let?
This guy's he's on the board too. Nice.
Yeah. I think that's huge. I saw that, when I was in steel business, it's somewhat different, I think, letting a bunch of high schoolers in when you got a blast furnace going on, and, melting a big ladle or melting a big heat of steel. But getting students in to actually see the process, get them turned on in high school, and then bringing them up. I've even been thinking about, some of the state of Pennsylvania has been hitting us up. They want K-TIG to expand more in Pennsylvania. Here's grants, all this stuff. Is there help at the state level? And I believe there is, at least in Pennsylvania, to go to them and say, hey, go hook us into the schools. We want to draw from them, but we want them coming out ready to hit our shop floor. We want to influence it. We want to help with that program. People less available, now must automate. So there's a couple roads we can go down here. I'd like to go to, if you're not automated today, and so many shops, especially in vessels, not to pick on the vessel industry, there are so many shops that I've been across the country who are still blacksmithing vessels. They keep doing it the same old way. They're beating them together. How does a shop that's not automating yet, like MIG is automation for them, how do you get them to start? That's a big elephant to eat. And how many robots have wound up in a freaking corner collecting dust because they're like, oh, I can't figure it out, so put it over there.
For us, that was a big challenge. We can't get the employees, so we have no choice but to look at some way to meet the demand of a volume of work. And basically, you have to change the culture of your people. That was my worst deal of all this issues that we've done on it, like bought a laser. That laser would help us cut back on shears and our saws. We're trying to reduce, and I hate to say that we're reducing the number of people, we can't get the people. So we're using the equipment, the K-TIGs, to fill in where the people we can't get. And it's working for us. For example, in my pre-processing on just the vessels before K-TIG, I had 3 shifts running 4 guys on each shift. Currently, after we got this K-TIG we've had it 5 years, I think now, and we have 7 units in our organization. And we're down to 3 people runs all of our pre-processing for building all of our shells and cylinders. And our main welder's 20 years old. We've got 2 key guys that fit everything up, and we got a young guy that does all the actual welding once we get it programmed in. And that's allowed us to reduce that amount of people. So that's what we had to do.
Where do you see, how do you see companies, because you are all over the country, how do they bite the elephant, take the first bite to get into automation?
Well, I think there's a couple things that are going to happen. You can go in and show somebody the solution, and if they don't want to change or they haven't set their company culture up to change, they're going out of business, like plain and simple. If you're not willing to make a change, this automation it's light years beyond this antiquated welding processes. And if you're like, well, I'm just going to pretend it's not happening, well, a shop full of very smart welders with lasers and CNC press brakes and advanced automation with less people is going to have shorter turnaround time and better quality and less overhead than you are beating things together. So, if it's like either they're going to jump on the train or they're not going to jump on the train. So, I used to have a lot of sympathy for shops like that and really tried really hard to convince people, and now I focus on working with people that want to make a change. Like, that's a great place to start because their company's already in this mindset that, hey, we understand that we're not necessarily doing things the right way, but we need to make a change. And if the owners and the shop foremen and the welders aren't actively identifying that, it could be because they're feeling the pain of losing business. It could just be because they're like, hey, we really need to advance and this is just our culture and we want the latest, next greatest thing. Those are great places to start, but there's a lot of companies that we go in and we try and show them everything. And it's a blatantly obvious, 40, 50% reduction in weld time. And they're just like, yeah, well, we really like flux core. We really like doing this. Or Tim's been here for 26 years and he was a nuclear welder, so we're just gonna listen to Tim. And apparently you don't know what you're talking about, so.
You touched on something about small and nimble. And it used to be like the big eat the small in fabrication. You have a big company, right? But now the idea of Nate saying, well, the small guys are nimble. And somebody recently told me, it's not the big who eat the small, it's the fast who eat the slow. Because you're an example of a company who's big but fast. So there are some shops out there that you're an open-minded shop to change. So how did you leverage that against your competition?
Well, I don't know so much about competition, but just inside, like I said, I've been here 40-some years of fabrication. I'm sure you guys as well. And you've got a whole bunch of supervisors or team leaders that's the same way. Their mindset is, this is how we've done it for 40 years. That's what I had to get changed. And the way I done it was, I actually did it with K-TIG. Finally got them to try it, get it in here, and they actually seen a hands-on how much we could reduce on hours. I cut 60% of our grinding time out with a K-TIG. I eliminated all of our x-rays. I've had yet to have a failure with x-rays. So it ain't just the welding speed, it's downstream of all the other things that this technology or continuous improvements can help a facility. They're huge, and that's the way we're making it work right now. It's just, and then once you get your team on board, they're all looking, so that's a good thing. They're all mindsets to that. What can we do? Can we change procedures, processes, stuff we've done for the same thing over and over? You have to get out of that mindset.
I was actually at a shipyard earlier in the year, and the head of craft for welding was there, and they were asking about why they won't change the process. And the head of craft said, well, look, my guys, they're worried about their overtime. And the business, he was not just the business development guy for the yard, and all the heads of state for the yard were in there. But he's like, look, that's the stuff I almost cursed. The stuff I don't want to hear. He said, if you can't get the first 40, you're not getting the overtime. And we're going to get run out. We're going to lose the contract. So let's worry about the first 40. And it's to your point, this mindset change to get people to buy into that. Right now, lead times in vessels are out.
Ours is running anywhere from, it depends on the size of the vessel, from 8 weeks out to 16 weeks. So we still keeping a pretty tight finish on our delivery dates.
8 to 16 weeks. I have been to so many shops that are out 52 weeks and beyond.
No, not at all.
So those shops will also say, I don't have time to integrate a K-TIG. I don't have the time, or any process. I don't have time to slow down to be able to take my guys a few days to learn how to do this process. What do you say to them?
That time's going to run out.
I didn't have a choice. we had so much work and had to do something, so we had to implement something where we could reduce less people and still get the work done. And it's all been by continuous improvements is what we've done.
When you started out with K-TIG, for instance, I know we get back to pre-processing. I still believe it's one of the most important things in welding. Everything before the welder touches it, so much can go right or wrong from ordering, right? Material, like buyers bringing material in.
I say you can grind before or you can grind after.
Grind before.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know one of the things that people say about K-TIG is, yeah, but that fit up, get that fit up right. And we talked about sealing passes and buttering joints before you weld them. In the beginning, did you guys struggle? Tell me like the good, the bad, and the ugly about K-TIG. Look, people want to know.
When we first started, it's just like it says, you know, I tried everything in one pass. We learned quickly, you know, the fit up on them bigger heads, the shells, you know, we can fit cylinder to cylinder, we quit beveling everything. So there's more than one thing that can upgrade to. So we don't bevel any heads, we don't bevel any shells anymore. It's a square edge up to 1/2 inch. So what that's allowing us to do is the better the fit up, the better it is. But we actually run 2 passes. We'll run a straight root pass, and then I'll run a pulse pass on a cover. It's about the same time as a cold wire feeler, a regular TIG, but it's saving me so many hours on rework, 0, my polishing time, and I'm on my x-raying. So if I don't have any failures, and we electropolish 90% of our stuff, so that's where we'll take off a layer, and we don't know that that even happens until we get downstream. And if we have one failure, that's gonna add immediately 10 more to 20 more hours to fix every hole. Because we gotta take it back to weld it, we gotta grind it, and we gotta respot it. So that's what we're doing.
Has K-TIG created any bottlenecks because of it in your shop, or over the years, did it create a bottle, like it freed up something over here and then you got to find
No,
something?
it didn't for us. You know, our grinders love it, because what used to take them 10 hours to grind a head might take them 2. So, I mean, it's all been pluses for us on the K-TIG side. And even all the continuous improvements has helped us out. You know, there's a learning curve to everything. You'll figure out, you know, you blow a big hole in the sidewall, you got to fix it. But you try to figure out what caused it, find the root cause problems, and eliminate them.
So obviously FabTech, huge show, tons of stuff, kid in a candy store, right? And everyone who's here talking with us is looking at everything else too. What advice do you have when you're looking at what things you're going to buy? How do you make the decision ultimately to invest your money?
I would say you're buying the weld is what you're really buying at the end of the day. So buy something that works. You know, if a company tells you, oh, we have this solution, say, let's see it. You know, find out if it's something that's going to implement in your shop. Are you going to jive with the people that come out and help you set it up? Or is it going to be like one of those sales things where they come up and put on a dog and pony show for you, and then you get this super shiny piece of technology and then you got no support on it? Like there's a lot of that, so you know, kind of beware of that, and you know, try and at the end of the day, you're buying the weld that goes in. So if you have something that works and you know that it's going to work for you, it doesn't matter necessarily what color box it comes in. You got to drive with the people because it's going to break. It's going to have issues. It's a welding break. You know, stuff breaks all the time. But having a consistent support network from that company that's going to help you after the sale and help you solve the problems as they come up. That's my advice.
Right on. So support, not just product support.
Yeah.
You know, what we can do sometimes is research. We have the tools, just like this show here has got everything you could possibly want, then some. But you have to look at each application you guys have in your shops and see what can you do. And what I did is just make sure you have these issues, or you have a way to, how can you make it better? Is do research. And then once you get that done, then you need to start talking to people, you know, like everything. I've done every vendor you can think of. I've worked with companies to get them to come in and we'll show them what our processes are, what can they do to help us out. And they've been really good at coming in. I mean, all it takes a phone call, invite these companies out, and they can help you with what they have. And you just have to look at it from your side. What are you building? What can you do? And how can that help you? And then you just have to weigh the consequences, whether it's good or bad. You know, it has to be cost effective.
Well, gentlemen, I know that everybody in here wants to do some drinking and maybe some eating and listening to music. So I really appreciate you coming out, sharing your experience and your background with us.